Liftoff and the clock has started.
Howdy, howdy.
Why, hello everyone out there.
And welcome to But It Was Aliens, the extraterrestrial comedy podcast where we probe aliens, but not today, folks. Not today. Today is a special occasion, and on special occasions, such as our birthdays, Christmas, and Halloween, we take a break from aliens on this show and we probe mysterious or more widely paranormal events instead. Today, it's pumpkin season, baby!
Pumpkin spice lattes.
Fuck 'em.
I was just about to say they're overrated.
Now, Christmas lattes, gingerbread lattes, I'm all up in that shit. I will accept those.
Yeah, they're nicer.
I'll go for a vanilla first, but I mix it up every now and then.
But you can't beat a toffee nut latte.
Well, you can. You can beat it with a vanilla latte. This is a very spooky discussion. Yes, indeed, it is Halloween. So without further ado, are you comfortable? If so, it is my explicit goal to change that. We begin today's tale deep in a forest in northern England in the 1200s. Here lived an isolated loner, a lady who shunned village life and chose to live instead in a small cabin away from civilization. This lady was happy to live in the forest, developing her herbal remedies. But, alas, sometimes you need to pop into town to sell your remedies and make a living, or to go and get a few bits. You know, you need a new iPad or a packet of quavers. People have needs. The lady didn't like going to town because the village folk would stare at the lady. They would mock the lady. But things were needed. Whilst popping into town one day, something unusual happened. The lady saw a man that she had never seen before, and what more, this man was kind. He showed an interest in the lady. He asked questions. He told the lady that she was Peng.
She's a peng-ting.
The lady dropped her guard, and next thing she knew, the lady was in the throes of passion, back in the shaggin' cabin. Pow! The next day, however, the man was gone. Today, firstly, I'm going to tell you the story of Mary Worth.
Okay, so the whole time you were describing that, I was trying to think of a film or a book or something that this was. Because whenever these are, you read like the first pages of a book or something just to throw me off. And I was like, I can't think what this is. I just can't get it.
No, this is genuine today. No film here.
So he hit it and quit it.
He did hit it and quit it.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. He was out.
Yeah. Finger and thumb, but not in the bum.
How do you know?
It's not in the notes.
That is.
That'd have definitely been in there had he done that. And to be honest, what happens next?
Was anything missing when she got up?
Her dignity?
She might have been alright with that.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not her fault anyway. I'd say, if anything, he's the one who lacked dignity disappearing. Didn't even have the decency to say, you're not really for me.
You never know why he disappeared.
Your beaver was a little bit overgrown, love.
He might not have been a man.
How so?
He might have been like a forest spirit.
Ooh.
And turned back into his forest spirit self.
Once every 800 years or so.
Yes, he becomes human.
The moon does shine and the garden doth grow.
But I digress. Were any of her things stolen? Or am I getting
her heart?
Were any of her possessions missing?
Her knickers. I was going to be really grim there, but I won't. All that was left was a trail. I mean, footprints.
What would you do if a one-night stand.
What would I do?
Disappeared, yeah. Like you woke up and they were just gone.
Pat myself on the back for a job well done. What would you do?
Never had a one-night stand.
Would you like to say that again? Look me in the eyes, you do it. Live on the podcast.
I have never.
Oh my. Sorry, come again. What are you putting your finger out for?
I've never had a one-night stand.
Did not. The quickest little side glance. So hypothetically, what would you do? Say you were having a one-night stand and you woke up in the throes of said one-night stand, not remembering how you got there. What would you do?
Pat myself on the back and say, job well done.
We need to get away from this conversation before one of us gets in trouble. By that one of us, I mean you.
Yep. Let's move on, shall we?
Genuinely, though, I am curious, like...
What would I do?
Yeah, if you were in that situation, say you were not quite the responsible individual that you are now, and you did get someone do that to you, and you really thought you had a connection, and then they disappeared.
I don't know if I'd really think we had a connection. What would I do?
I suppose it is a bit naive to give yourself to someone on the first night and assume there's a connection.
Yeah.
Because the world is not a nice place. Sorry, boys, girls, and people not included within those labels. Respect yourself. Make them work for it.
I think I'll probably just get up and make some breakfast.
Yeah, me too. It's happened.
Yep.
I got too much pride. That's on you. You don't want this good stuff.
To be fair, I tend to wake up early anyway, so I tend to wake up
you
before.
get up horribly early. So you're the one that walks out, is what you're saying? Right.
Have I done that before?
Never.
Yes. But simply because I was late for football.
I thought you were going to say feeling sick for some reason, which is an adequate answer. I'd have accepted that without challenge.
So I had to dash.
Priorities. Terrible.
I mean, is that a one-night stand if you sleep with them again?
Probably not, no.
Then
you're probably going into different territory there. Let's get away from this topic. The man...
It's hot in here.
The man had completely vanished. Oh, shit. How do we get here? Woo!
Get louder!
These demons that must leave my body. Woo! So the man had completely vanished. Mary would search but could not find him. One and done, son. Mary, as it's transpired, did get a parting gift though. Mary was pregnant.
Ooh.
Mary hated people. Mary didn't want company. Mary just wanted the quiet peace of the forest. Mary, therefore, did not want the baby. But this was the olden times. What's a woman to do?
She didn't pop it in... I was about to say pop it in a well.
Oh, crikey.
Put it in a basket and just sneak into town one night and just leave it at someone's doorstep.
No, she didn't. Mary had no choice, and yes, indeed, Mary gave birth to the baby. Mary's baby. Accounts aren't clear as to whether Mary delivered the child alone, but when the child was born, Mary was shocked to discover something new. Mary was taken with love for the child, pure, unconditional love.
Mother's instinct kicked in.
Yeah, Mary was attached. The child became Mary's whole life. Mary was no longer lonely. Mary was happy and doted on that child until a year into the child's life.
That child started saying no. Started asking why. Do this. Why?
When they learn
Why?
that word. Yeah, worst thing.
Why? No is another one.
No and why. Yeah.
No and why.
Just don't teach children those words.
Yeah, but 9 times out of 10 they hear no from the parent as they go to do something. No.
Give them maybes instead.
Or
would that be more annoying if a kid started going, maybe?
So you remember when we were walking into the building?
Today?
Yes.
Yes.
And there was that those parents, and the little
Yes.
kid was just being a little kid. There was a cat in the window, and she wanted to play with the cat.
Yeah.
And her mother, bearing in mind this child is, what, probably 4,
About
5?
that, yeah.
The mother literally turned and said, "Stop being a bellend." Now,
England, ladies and gentlemen. England.
I am not surprised if that child grows up to be an absolute turd.
Yeah, you can't blame the child, can you?
Nope. Or starts calling her parents a bellend.
Bad word to
Brought it on
learn.
themselves.
Do you reckon that child is later on going to be like, Mom, what's a bellend?
No, I think she's just going to start using the word without knowing what
Not
it
knowing
is.
what it is. Yeah, like, I told the story before, didn't I, about my nephew and Duck Duck Goose?
Now, I'm a very, very
Loving man.
sweary person. But in front of my nieces, I have the ability to be the calmest person in the world. I'd never even dream of swearing in front of them. Or calling them a bellend.
That's not something that really occurs to me to call any child, even if they are being a bellend.
True. I just say to my sister, she's so much like you, and she's gonna be a bitch to you when you're older.
Does your sister listen to this?
No.
You're lucky.
Why? What's my sister gonna do?
What's my sister going to say? A murker. It's smelly.
Son, I'm like 3 times the size of my sister.
To be fair, I'm like 3 times the size of your sister.
Exactly. What's she gonna do? What are you gonna do?
She's got spirit, though.
Yeah.
She'll catch you sooner or later when you're not expecting
I'm not
it.
looking.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere!
A year in, one night, Mary went to bed just as any other day. Mary placed the child gently in its crib.
And it slit her throat!
Crikey. I know it's Halloween, but that's pretty grim. Mary spanned the child's mobile above their bed and gave the child their iPad and turned the lights off. The next morning...
She like Bill and Ted. She travelled to the future and got an iPad. Came back, gave it to the kid.
Just spicing it up a little bit, you know. The next morning, Mary awoke to discover that her beloved child had been murdered.
Oh, okay, that's just grim.
The bloody body had been left in the crib for Mary to discover. Horrific. Mary blamed herself and would go mad with grief. Mary sat in front of a mirror crying for days and days before eventually taking a knife and looking deep into her own eyes through the mirror as she stabbed herself repeatedly. Mary died.
I would just like to say,
Yes?
I am not looking into that thing and repeating her name.
What thing?
Kev has placed 2 mirrors on the table. Now, even I know that this could possibly be a story and is probably 99% sure it's a story, but I'm not taking that 1% chance. I will not look into that mirror and say her name, so you can go fluck yourself.
You're reading too much into things here.
I'm really not. I've seen the setup.
Or have you?
Trying to get me murked.
Not at all. Not at all, sir. This is Halloween. I'm just setting the mood.
I mean, you know what happened last time? We predicted something after or during a podcast.
What was that?
I woke up with a bruise.
Oh, yeah.
We have no idea how
You messed
I got.
with the spirit world. I will just add that there is a second account that adds to this tale explaining that people from the nearby town, whilst mindful of Mary and her herbal Wicca remedies, knew that she had interesting abilities. When their children were stricken, the children would be sent to Mary to heal despite the parents not going near Mary themselves. The children would always return home well, until one day, the children stopped returning home.
Sorry, before you go on.
Yes?
If one child didn't come back home, why would you send more?
This is olden times.
You went to Mary's and didn't come back. Oh, it's fine. Go on.
Well,
go on, little Kevin. Off you go.
maybe it took him a minute to realise he didn't have the internet back then. Although she did have an iPad.
I was about to say town gossip. Probably quicker than the internet.
The villagers realised fairly quickly and were convinced that Mary had begun taking the children. The townspeople soon gathered at Mary's residence with their pitchforks, chanting, "Murderer! Murderer! Here comes the hot stepper! Murderer!
I'm the lyrical gangster.
Murderer!" Townspeople stormed Mary's residence, and sure enough, there they found the remains of several children. It's not clear if these remains could have been Mary's own child. Mary was tied up and burned at the stake. As Mary burned, a mirror was placed in front of Mary so that she could look into her own eyes and understand what utter filth Mary was. Mary, however, had been framed. Mary was innocent. As Mary burned to death, she looked into the mirror and placed a curse upon the world, saying that if anyone dared to say Mary's name into a mirror, Mary would come back for them.
They liked to burn things, didn't they?
In the olden times. Yeah.
It was never...
Not like they had electricity or...
Yeah, but I
To
mean...
be fair, they probably
you
would
could
have had guns.
Stab someone, shoot them, behead them.
It's a lot of work making a knife though, isn't it?
It's a lot of work making a fire. Because you then...
Yeah, you just get your lighter out. Or your gas lighter.
Or your Tesla flamethrower.
Yep, absolutely. Get your flamethrower out. Easy. Get a match.
I suppose they used to like to make a spectacle of it, didn't they? Because they were twisted.
Well, it's not like they had TV now, is it?
Mary had an iPad. What did she have on it? Notes. Is that all?
She had a YouTube video playing of a fire.
Kept her warm at night.
Absolutely.
So they found the remains of several children.
Yes, but remember this was the 1200s. They didn't have like DNA testing.
No,
So
but
it's-
you also said it's not clear if these remains could have been Mary's.
Yeah, because
So,
I'm saying whilst they assumed it was several children,
okay, so it wasn't...
because Mary was innocent.
Yeah, but there
and
wasn't
it could
like
have been whoever-
2 skulls there or 5 skulls. It was 1 skull
Yeah,
and like 1 foot.
yeah.
But wouldn't they have seen the size of the skull, the size of the foot, and
But
assumed...
you got to remember this is the 1200s.
Yeah,
They're a raging
but
mob.
the size of a baby and
I
the
hear you.
size of the child that
But
had
this
been
is the
sent
1200s.
on their own.
This is a raging mob who have already got it in their minds that this person is guilty. They're seeing what they want to see.
True.
So on that note, a final variation on the Mary Worth account exists, and this account suggests that Mary wasn't innocent at all.
Was this written by one of the...
The raging townspeople with
like
pitchforks.
the family member of one of them.
Mary was an older person, but when the townspeople confronted Mary in search of their missing children, Mary wasn't elderly anymore. Mary appeared to be more youthful, with it believed that she had utilised the children as part of some form of dark magic to maintain her youth. Mary is said to have been found after placing a spell on a local child, the daughter of the Millers. The Millers gathered other townsfolk, and they all went looking in the woods after a distant light caught their eye, and this is where they discovered the now younger Mary, subsequently searching Mary's cabin as outlined. The curse bit remains the same. So these 3 associated accounts are the origin tale of who we today know as Bloody Mary. We've briefly discussed Mary on the podcast before, but have you actually heard of Bloody Mary in your childhood?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Tell me about it.
Which is why I will not be standing in front of that mirror and calling her name.
Calling
Again,
whose name?
I do not care if it is 99.99999% a made up story. Not testing it.
Testing what?
So this story of her, was she eating some of the town's children?
It's not really clear. She could have been, but it's kind of alluded to that she's bathing in their blood rather than specifically eating them.
Have you heard the conspiracy about Hollywood actors?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you reckon this is where they got that idea from? They heard this story and they were like, ooh.
It may have been an inspiration, whether consciously or unconsciously. Absolutely.
Either that or they're all fucking aliens.
Well, we know that. Bloody... Oh, sorry, you're going to say something else?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know if I believe the story that says she wasn't innocent.
Who wasn't innocent?
Mary. Because back then, all you had to do was say that someone done something.
Yeah.
And people would just believe it instantly.
Hear you, son.
No matter what, there was no evidence. They'd just go, oh, she's a witch. Witch! Witch is a witch burner at that stake.
Yeah, yeah.
And all she had on was like a dress that didn't cover her ankles. That was it, because she grew a bit.
Yeah, and then you were buggered because they'd burn you if you survived, you were a witch.
Yep.
Or they'd stick you in water if you floated and didn't die. You're a witch.
Madness.
The world we live in. Bloody Mary has been plaguing civilization for hundreds of years now, though Bloody Mary became particularly prominent from the 1970s, perhaps due to the rise of television and later, I suppose, the internet. Plus, Mary was mentioned in an academic article. The legend goes that if you say Bloody Mary's name into a mirror either 3 or 13 times, Bloody Mary, just as earlier promised, comes for you.
Not very specific, is it? Suppose it's covering the whole spectrum.
Yeah, there's
just to make sure she gets you.
Like, I think this is one of those ones where the story changes slightly when every single person tells someone else, and there's a couple of different variations of it going around. Mary may scratch your eyes out. Mary may claim your soul and burn it for all eternity, but regardless of what happens, Mary comes. Some accounts down the years suggest that the strength of Bloody Mary's presence is increased if the incantation is repeated with the lights off, with light only provided by candlelight. The candle represents the flames which consumed Mary. Perhaps most disturbingly of all, if Bloody Mary does come for you, you yourself could be trapped in the mirror and potentially haunt your own family inadvertently into madness as they catch glimpses of your tormented figure in the mirror themselves.
Did you do this as a kid?
Did you do this as a kid?
Don't be daft.
So, I have 2 older sisters, and I can remember them talking about this and mucking around with this when I was very young. I don't remember them doing it to completion, though they may very well have, but I can certainly remember hearing them talk about it and then going to do it myself in the bathroom. I didn't have a candle, though.
Did you look into the mirror when you done it?
Yeah.
Okay. She may still be after you.
She may.
She might be taking care of everyone else first.
She may well be.
No, I don't.
You don't what, sorry?
Mess around with stuff like this.
You don't mess around?
No.
What do you mean?
You'll never catch me doing shit like this. I'll never fuck about with a Ouija board. None of that stuff.
Did I ever tell you about the time I did a Ouija board?
I think you might have done. But yeah, you won't catch me doing that stuff. Again, could be 99.9%. Just not taking that 0.1% chance.
God, I want to do a live video episode and do a Ouija board one day.
Not happening, I'll just walk out. I'd get up and leave, motherfucker. Especially considering the place that Extraterrestrial Towers is built on.
The old burial ground. It's not even a joke.
It actually stopped
Construction.
Yeah, of
they
the
had to put
building.
it back whilst they dug up all the bodies. That makes me never want to leave. Maybe I won't.
You'll be here forever.
My soul will be trapped in a mirror. That sound we keep making is the least scary sound. Horror. So I thought at this point that I'd quickly give a true account of someone who played Bloody Mary. There are loads of these about. I searched the most reputable blogs on the internet and came across the story of Marissa. In September 2007, Marissa had a friend over and had just finished watching one of those Ghost Whisperer television shows. Marissa was showing off and span around in the living room, chanting Bloody Mary, much to the friend's horror. Nothing. Marissa, now really showing off, thought that she'd step it up, and so Marissa went to the bathroom, turned the lights off and closed the door. The friend, horrified, waited outside. The friend heard as Marissa chanted Bloody Mary 3 times into the mirror. Marissa looked into all corners of the mirror. Nothing. Just as Marissa gave up and went to turn away, something moved in the corner of Marissa's eye. Marissa looked closer and could make out a black and white figure, mouth open, gaping. It looked like the figure was screaming, but there was no sound. Marissa froze for a time. The figure lifted her arms, and their hands were bright red. Their nails were peeling off. The hands suddenly reached out of the mirror towards Marissa's shoulders. Marissa turned and ran straight out of the bathroom. The friend had heard the commotion and tried to comfort Marissa, placing blankets over every mirror in the house. It's not known what happened to Marissa after that. Did Bloody Mary come back to finish what she had started?
You know what?
What?
That sounds like absolute bullshit, but I would still never do it. Like there is no account of this person. It was when 2007.
Yeah, and it's a verified account on a blog.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of comments of them all doing it.
But internet was about then.
Yep,
People had the old MySpaces and Bebos and
they did indeed.
stuff like that. You're telling me that no one knows what happened to Marissa? Is her name actually Marissa? Or is someone just spinning a yarn here?
I can
Is a
verify
yarn
that
being spun?
the blog didn't say
blog?
didn't say what happened to Marissa.
The Matt LeBlanc?
Matt LeBlog.
So someone spun a yarn. They've spun a Halloween tale.
So you're calling bullshit?
I'm calling bullshit on that story.
Ooh, son. Ooh, son. You're talking a big game.
I call bullshit. That's like saying, so was there a missing persons thing out for Marissa? There is still
Who knows?
still a missing persons out? I think someone
Post
would know.
stopped.
Because if I just didn't turn up tomorrow morning,
Yeah, but would you post to a blog? Would you look for a blog from the persons that any blog in the world that they've commented on to then post that they're missing?
no, but you would, if this is going out, surely someone would have read it and gone, I wonder who this Marissa is.
That was me. I searched for Marissa. I couldn't find her. She's gone.
You didn't search hard enough.
I
should have
searched
searched-
so very
You should
hard.
have searched the imagination of the person that wrote the blog.
I searched
You would
my
have
own.
found her.
I might link the
Deep in the recesses of
the blog in the episode notes so people can go and read the story if they choose, along with some others. I've read loads of these blogs, but there's one in particular I just very much liked that. It was the first story on this blog, but I must have read about 40 of these.
Very accomplished writer if it grabbed you then.
I just liked the thought of the arms reaching out of the mirror to grab.
Again, very accomplished writer if it grabbed you.
Yeah, very, very accomplished teenage writer.
Wonder what they're doing now.
They're missing.
Probably writing for Marvel.
So had you have had the balls to do this, and Mary reached out at you, what would you do?
Shit my pants.
Nothing else.
Nope.
Shit. It's froze and shit.
I would have either shit myself or been too scared and frozen to shit myself.
Both fine responses.
And then, I don't know. I honestly can't say. It's a fight or flight.
Yeah, yeah. But you're such an aggressive person.
No, I'm not. Name one time I've been aggressive.
Did you tackle anyone at football tonight and potentially injure them?
Nope.
You fucking liar.
Our knees collided. They were worse off.
Uh-huh.
I carried on.
Okay. So you're calling bullshit.
Bullshit?
You're calling bullshit on
I'm
Bloody
calling
Mary.
Bullshit.
On Bloody Mary.
On the story.
The story of who?
Mary.
You're calling bullshit on Bloody Mary.
On Mary.
Why won't you say it? You
I'm
little
not
pussy.
going to.
Pussy.
Yes.
There is a second origin tale to this curse. Our second Mary today was born on the 18th of February 1516 in Greenwich, England. Mary was born at the Palace of Placentia, for Mary was the first and only child of King Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon to reach adulthood. When Mary was 17 years of age, Henry did Henry things. Henry was frustrated by his lack of a male heir to the throne, as this was a king's duty at the time, and so Henry annulled his marriage to Catherine. Mary could no longer visit her mother. As we know, Henry next married Catherine's maid of honour, Anne Boleyn, who, worried that Mary would be a problem for Henry and Anne's daughter Elizabeth, successfully had Mary ruled an illegitimate child. Mary's reputation was ruined. She was now a bastard.
Catherine of Aragon.
Yes?
Was she the daughter of Aragon?
Aragon!
Aragon!
Nay, but technically yes.
I mean, imagine being a princess and then going from princess to bastard.
The bastard princess. That's going to stick, isn't it?
I mean, it's a great name now, but back then...
It's a great name for a book.
I actually don't know much about the bastard princess.
Oh, well, you're about to, son. You are about to.
So, I'm looking forward to learning. Because we are an educational podcast.
We are educational. Throughout her life, Mary was unfortunately known to experience episodes of depression and awful menstrual pains. Mary did succeed the throne eventually in 1553, aged 37, and was quickly wed to Philip of Spain, with whom she would try to conceive an heir. The marriage was unpopular with the public. 2 months later, Mary started experiencing morning sickness. Mary was pregnant. The public, however, was suspicious. As was customary during the Tudor times, Mary was taken to private chambers 6 weeks before her due date, and on the due date, nothing. It was decided that they got the date wrong, and the new date was set a month later, in June. Rumours spread that Mary had given birth to a boy, and other rumours spread that she had died during childbirth. Others still suggested that she was never pregnant at all and that it was a tumour. By July, Mary's baby bump had shrunk. Those supporting Mary had put the date back to around July, but at this point, Mary left the private chambers more alone than ever. It's said that Mary believed that God was punishing her for an incomplete mission she had started months earlier.
Ooh, what mission?
You're going to find out.
Okay. Have you noticed that the public do not like who royals seem to date or get married to?
So in this instance...
I mean, just in general, like,
I appreciate,
still.
yeah. In this
Like-
instance, the public were worried about being ruled by someone from overseas, essentially. With no male heir, this person could potentially become the king and the ruler of England.
So, even so,
But I appreciate what you're saying. Even today, people give shit to...
fuck the public.
Whoa!
Like, Stay your fucking nose out of other people's business, you fucking mugs.
Crikey! Crikey!
How's that for aggressive?
I don't think our listeners are the type of people who would have those views, to be fair.
No, but it just winds me up. Like, in general, that people have... I know opinions are like arseholes and everyone has one, but surely there's more important things to fucking worry about than who other people are dating, unless it directly affects you, as in your family, and that person is an absolute cunt.
Whoa.
Then, otherwise, have a Coke, have a smile, and shut the fuck up.
Definitely not aggressive.
This is my calm voice.
You can have a calm voice and still be very aggressive.
Nah, of course you can't. Don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to kick you in the gooch. And kill you. Still aggressive.
I don't believe it, though. You're too calm.
By the way, just sciencing for a second, it's believed that Mary's may be one of the most famous cases of a phantom pregnancy, when the person wants a baby so much that the body convinces itself that it is pregnant and takes on those features. It could also have been some form of miscarriage or a precursor condition to cancer. All very sad. Back to the mission. Mary's kingdom, or queendom, was divided between two denominations of Christianity: Protestants, whose clergy are independent and whom allow divorce, #Henry VIII, and Catholics, headed by the Pope. I'm massively oversimplifying here because religion is not our focus today. Mary, though, was determined to unite the kingdom under the one true religion in her view, Catholicism. Mary signed an act which led to approximately 288 Protestants being executed, with most being burned at the stake on Mary's sign-off. These were the Marian persecutions. Mary turned her country's religion back to Catholicism with the smell of burning flesh so strong in the air that many people could not stomach going outside during the executions. Mary had also executed another 200 people during the earlier Wyatt Rebellion, spawned by her marriage to Spanish Philip. And so Mary's reign, due to all this execution, is therefore known as Bloody Mary.
Oh, fair enough. So, if you say this, well, I suppose depending on which Mary it is, are you going to, burn for eternity? Or are you going to have your eyeballs scratched out and burn for eternity?
Either way, you're bugging for eternity, whichever one you buy into.
That's a lot of executions.
Yeah.
I mean, why is the world so messed up?
I can't really answer that. Bonkers world, isn't it? Years later, Mary announced that she was pregnant again. Philip didn't believe her. Mary was later confirmed to have entered the menopause. No baby. Mary died at 42 years of age in 1558, possibly of ovarian cancer. Mary never had the child she so longed for. Philip wrote a letter to his sister in which he stated, "I felt a reasonable regret for her death." By the way, in the 1500s...
I have a question, sorry.
Right.
The voice you just put on for Philip
Yes.
was English.
Right.
Isn't he Spanish?
He is, yeah.
So, I want to hear a Spanish Philip, please.
I'm not very good at Spanish. I felt a reasonable regret for her death, like.
Atrocious, but carry on.
How'd you do a Spanish accent? I felt a reasonable regret for her death.
Ole.
Yes. I'm just doing that voice because I know a Spanish person and they sound really timid. And you don't really catch much of their accent because they're just so like that. But yeah, I was just saying, in the 1500s, saving the soul from eternal damnation was considered far more important than our short life. And that's what Mary thought she was actually achieving in those executions, the greater good. So I ask you, who is Bloody Mary? We have the witch Mary Worth, burned at the stake in front of a mirror. Meanwhile, we also have an upset and lonely queen, hated by her people, longing for a child, and some would say with a vicious attitude, who is reported to appear in the mirror even more dangerously if you taunt Mary, saying that you stole her child, referring to her phantom pregnancies. Which do you think is the one appearing in mirrors?
Possibly both.
Both?
Yep.
Controversial.
Like, they carry the mantle of the name. So it's not one, it's multiple. And depending on which one, because they said there's two different ways of taunting. One with the line you just referred to as in stealing her child.
Right.
And the other with the candle. So possibly depending on how many times it's said and which method you use depends on which one you get.
Okay, that's given me a thought. How did Queen Mary end up in the mirror?
Maybe when she died she met the other one.
Maybe she died whilst looking at her reflection.
Possible.
Trapped the soul. And was even more pissed off because of it.
Or she may have, before she died, was in the bathroom or somewhere with a mirror and cursed her life for what it had become. And all those that had crossed her. And then, I was about to say, trundled off to bed and died. That sounds so harsh. And maybe died
Like
in
a
her
cat.
sleep. Like,
Just went and found a corner to die in. Crikey.
so it's possible it could be both. So it's more of a mantle rather than an individual.
You're not really leaning one way or the other then?
No, I'm saying both. You never said that couldn't be an answer.
No. If you think both, you think both. You're entitled to your opinion. It's like arseholes, isn't it?
Yep.
It did make me chuckle though. The chap's line to his wife dies and he's like, I felt a reasonable amount of regret. Did not care, did he?
Didn't get an heir, did he?
He didn't,
that was
but
more
it's also
important.
suggested in accounts that she was a lot more into him. Obviously, it was arranged marriage, and she was a lot more into him than he perhaps was her.
Quite possible.
Yeah, sad.
I mean, it's all about perception back then, isn't it? And if you think about it, if she was dubbed a bastard...
Yeah, but then she ended up ruling. Obviously, reputation was always going to be hard to recover from being the bastard, but
Yeah.
things
Who
happened.
knows?
Obviously, we'd spend hours if we covered all the things that happened after Henry VIII and Edward passed and whatnot. But anywho, now that we've had the origins, can we explain all this with science? In 2014, academics studied Bloody Mary to see if they could explain what was going on because people have seen Bloody Mary. It turns out that if you stare into a mirror for a long time while sat in the dark, after having been told about the curse, your mind does actually start playing tricks on you and you do see things in the mirror. If you stare at anything too long, it will appear to start moving. But I suppose, rather than an optical illusion, is this actually Bloody Mary? Most participants in the activity of Bloody Mary are young schoolgirls, easily susceptible, but also Bloody Mary's targets. I have a quick image of Bloody Mary here as you debate this one.
Okay, so we have a mirror with a woman in a white dress, mouth open, ghostly face, no eyes by the look of it.
You may say that the mouth is gaping,
Yeah, her mouth is open,
like she's making a horrific sound.
and long black hair.
Indeed.
That would be horrifying to see in a mirror.
Indeed.
Our own psyche brings forth this image.
Absolutely.
I
It's
suppose if you're picturing it in your head for that long, but then again,
and if you stare at things, they start moving. If you stare at mirrors, you see things in mirrors after a period
but then
with the
how
lights
long
off.
are you staring in the mirror for it to happen? How long did they have the subjects there for?
I couldn't answer that. It's different for every person.
I was about to say, I suppose if you're sleep deprived and do it, then
Yeah,
for
people
me, that's
actually
gonna be mental.
hallucinate when they're sleep deprived. So that's much more.
But if you were to be kind of wide awake and just walked in the bathroom at like 2 p.m. and did it, then I don't know if you would see it.
Not well.
But then I suppose
unlikely.
you might. You could do it, and then later in the day it's still in your subconscious, and then when you look in a mirror, you see something
Possible.
possible.
It is time to summarise today's tale, if you dare. Woo! Today, we have covered the story or stories of Mary Worth, a lonely lady from around the 1200s who left her cabin in the woods one day and had a one-night stand. Mary was pregnant and gave birth, doting on the child for a year before the child was viciously murdered. Alongside this, Mary may have been a herbal witchy healer for the nearby town, whom all feared her, but sent their children to Mary when they were unwell. At some point, children begun disappearing and the townspeople got their pitchforks out, raiding Mary's cabin in the woods, whereby they found the remains of children. Mary, who may or may not have been consuming or bathing in the children to restore her youth, was burned at the stake with a mirror placed in front of her. This may be the origin of Bloody Mary, the mirror spectre who has since plagued the world when foolish individuals say Mary's name. We quickly covered the true story of Marissa, who summoned Bloody Mary in the bathroom. Mary reached out for Marissa. Nobody knows if Bloody Mary came back. We then covered the other, perhaps confused origin of Bloody Mary, Queen Mary Tudor, known as Bloody Mary due to the many Protestants Mary sentenced to death. Mary lived a complex life, being Catholic and trying to undo the reformation of the country by her father after navigating a life being considered a bastard. Mary had episodes of depression and phantom pregnancies, and a possibly unrequited love for her estranged husband. Is Mary coming back to attack those who mock her and don't understand her life's difficulties? We briefly covered alternative explanations in that it is a genuine psychological effect when looking at mirrors in the dark for prolonged periods to see things. We wondered which Mary is the bloody one. What do you think, Granville?
Got a question.
Yes?
It's about the first Mary, and you mentioned that she was set up. Did they find out who set her up?
No. What if it was the father who was actually the devil and came back to claim the soul of his child?
But the other children went missing.
Yes?
I'm
Maybe
not
the
discussing
devil
her.
took those too.
Maybe it was a Pied Piper. I think it's possibly both Marys.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't believe in the story, I'm still not going to do it.
So you don't believe it?
I don't believe it.
So are you saying that it was spookies?
I am saying it's not spookies. It's a made-up tale told over time that has got twisted and things grown to it, and any time someone is called Mary, it's kind of added to.
So you don't believe it?
I don't believe it.
Son.
But that 0.0001%. So I 99.9% don't believe it.
Well,
but that 0.1 isn't
we're all or
enough,
nothing here, son. We're all or
isn't
nothing.
enough for me to turn and do it in a mirror.
I'm calling bullshit on you.
You can do that all you want.
I call bullshit. You believe it or you don't.
Just like you wouldn't take that fucking Joker question, I'm not fucking doing this mirror test. Go fuck yourself.
Well, I put it to you that if you refuse to do the mirror test, as you call it, you are saying that it's real.
Then so be it.
There we are. Mr. Moonwalker is saying that it is spookies after all when put on the spot. How do you feel about me doing it?
I mean, if you want to do it, you can do it, son.
I'll do it, son. Just pulling the mirror beside me so I can see myself. Just turning the light off. Come on, Mary, bitch! Right, I am now looking myself dead in the face in the mirror. My face already appears to be moving. I think it's because I've been staring at the screen. Right. Bloody Mary, 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 Bloody Mary. How many have I done? Bloody Mary, 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 Bloody Mary. I'm going to kick the shit out of you, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Come on.
Well, hey, sugar! What you calling my name for?
So do you think as I've just looked into the mirror doing this, I've cursed us both?
No. Well, we'll find out if I make it home tonight or not.
I kind of want to be quiet for a second and listen to see if I hear any bumps, but then I don't trust myself not to make the bumps.
Yeah, I was tempted to knock the table.
Yeah, I'm still not seeing anything, unfortunately, other than myself. So I think on that note, I
suppose you also said it could be any time.
Good point. I might be screwed later on tonight. Do you think I probably should have warned the audience not to look into mirrors as I was doing that?
No, because it's your voice, not theirs.
Yeah, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Just in case. I would be so amazed if something came out of that mirror now. I think I'd be borderline happy.
I think I would poo.
Squelchy, squelchy. But yeah, on that note, solid. I can't say that it was spookies. This one, as we've discussed before, whilst I love the paranormal, I'm a bit of a sceptical chap, and I don't really believe in ghosts. However, I do believe that Queen Mary was real and lived a lonely life. If ghosts were going to exist, Mary is exactly the type of individual I'd expect to come back, although to be fair, so is someone who stared into a mirror and placed a curse. Though, to be brutally honest, that's a bit of a shit curse to place, except for the fact that it's obviously led to infamy. I don't think it's Queen Mary, but do I think that Bloody Mary is real? Or do I think that it's a mix of stories passed through generations?
Randomly?
Alongside natural psychological effects.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
Go for it.
I've just pulled a female hair from my face.
That's awesome. She's come. I told you, she's coming for you.
Literally, I'm holding it in front of me.
Your face is starting to turn into a black and white face. It genuinely is.
Awesome.
It's because the light of your screen is reflecting on your face, but even so, you're starting to look freaky.
Like, when you turn that light on, I'm going to give you this hair.
That's right, you keep hold of it. I'd just like to acknowledge that today I didn't mention another true story which usually gets confused into the origin of Mary, as it may form a future episode. But the legend of Bloody Mary is said by some to be based upon the true story of Elizabeth Bathory, who may or may not have bathed in young girl's blood to preserve her looks. Anyway, that's our Halloween special, locked away, never to be heard again. Any final thoughts? Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary.
Hashtag
Trying to get out of here straight away. Graham has left the room. He's left the house. He's ran. Right, folks, that is indeed a wrap for today. Thank you for listening to But It Was Aliens. It has been my pleasure. You know by now that I love paranormal cases, and I really had fun with this one. If you're one of the millions and millions, also known as 4, of our listeners, and would like to see or hear more from us, well, oh my, you're in luck, because now you can. In addition to being able to find us on the Twitter, at But It Was Aliens, and in the Facebook group called Extraterrestrial Towers. You can also now hear more of us over at patreon.com /
Patreon.com, side probe, probe.
Patreon.com / But It Was Aliens. Once a month, we are releasing bonus episodes, which we call side probes. I swear to God, I just saw something move in the mirror.
That was my hand.
I can't see your mirror, I can only see mine. But yeah, on Patreon, we explore more widely paranormal cases like today's topic. Was the Bell Witch real? Was Rasputin a telepathic mystic sex healer? Head on over to our Patreon and you can find out. As always, we'll have another episode of the main show with you next Thursday. But until then... How did spirit levels become haunted? The truth is up there. Hashtag probe. Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary.